to take this time to review a few failures of leadership that have come to light as of late. Last week, emails made public in the Corman lawsuit showed that the NCAA officials had questioned their own authority to sanction Penn State, and that enforcement officials were hopeful that the university would be so embarrassed they would do anything. The NCAA characterized their approach as a bluff. And while the rest of the world seemed to know the NCAA was operating outside their jurisdiction, you threw your fiduciary responsibility out of the window and allowed Penn State to turn over $60 million in fines to the NCAA. Never questioning the validity of the NCAA's actions, I would say that qualifies as an example of failure of leadership. You engaged Freesborken and Sullivan for over $8 million of the university's money for their independent investigation. Quoting your own engagement letter, "It will be performed in parallel to, but independent of, any other investigation that is conducted by any policy agencies, governmental authorities or agencies, or other organizations within or outside PSU." Recently released emails show that Freesborken and Sullivan not only met with on a regular basis, but also took direction from the NCAA, the Big Ten, and your own board members. The final product of this joint investigation was the free report used by the NCAA to bluff the Board of Trustees into accepting the levied sanctions. A report deeply flawed, as pointed out to you by numerous credible sources, one that you yourselves now admit is incomplete but still refuse to review. I would call that a failure of leadership. And we can't forget the absolute failure of leadership by the board in the handling of the release of the Sandusky presentment, a PR nightmare now used in teaching institutions to demonstrate what never to do in that situation. But by far the biggest failure of leadership is that you have done nothing to improve the welfare of children in this state. You have successfully diverted attention from the Second Mile and other government agencies that allowed this abuse to occur. You took the blame and paid out millions of dollars for the actions of others that still operate without correction or control to this day. 3 years ago, you fired an employee of 61 years of service for a failure of leadership. I suggest that most of you should have been fired long ago.